here tonight. Is it like 3,000? How's everybody doing tonight? Good. I don't got my fancy name tag on tonight, but for everybody that doesn't know me, I'm Jeffrey. I'm a grateful believer in Jesus Christ. I suffer from anything from anger, depression. Today it's worry, scared, probably pass out. I don't know. It's going to be a roller coaster tonight, though, so y'all are in for it. I talk with my hands, so they'll be all over the place. Just bear with me. The accent gets a little crazy sometimes, too. So, I'm here to talk about my life, tell you what I've been through and everything. Story begins like most everybody else's. I was raised Catholic, very Catholic, altar boy and everything. Grandparents were kind of the forebearers of it. They made all their kids go to Sunday school and everything. Grandkids had to go, so we were always at Sunday school, church afterwards, and it was the happy little family, me and my brother and sister. We went to church for all the holidays. It was my dad's side that was the really religious ones that wanted us to go and everything, and they kind of, like I said, made us go. My mom's side didn't care. Church was important to them, and they took it serious. It was important to my grandparents. They took it very seriously, so that means we all had to dress up nice, act accordingly. Once I was of the age, I became an altar boy, like I said, very Catholic. But I was excited for it because I had the same priest that my dad was an altar boy under, so I was kind of carrying the torch. I was excited about it. I was excited about the job and the responsibilities that came with it, and I just kind of got to dress kind of cool. I mean, I was a kid. But looking back, I was how much we were involved with church and school and Sunday school and everything. I really can say that I didn't really have a relationship with Christ. I knew of him, I knew what he was capable of, but I didn't have that deep relationship, like a lot of people do. But he was never really a part of my life, and he was never really a part of my home life. He didn't, like I said, we all went, but none of us really, other than that, we didn't do much outside of church. And after a while, it just was like going through the motions. So my happy little family had a secret, a few of them really, that kind of was always underlying. And before any of us kids could realize it, our worlds were going to be destroyed. My parents always fought. I think that's a common thing. But it always seemed to be worse and a lot of yelling, so we'd always go into another room. And they tried to fight out, with us not around, or when we were in bed when we couldn't hear them. But they were always fighting about what, I don't even remember at this point. But I think it had a lot to do with my dad. He was a little bit of a drunk. I didn't notice it, but he always would be drinking. I didn't think it was that bad, but my mom had other thoughts on it. He was never abusive towards us, so I want to make that clear. My dad was always great. He was always there. He was just a drinker. You gotta bear with me, I'm sorry. I figured, the fighting and everything and the drinking was more or less normal. I figured everybody's parents did it. It was a grown-up thing to do. After the 4th grade, we moved to a faraway country town called Huntington. Fighting between them continued, but it seemed to kind of lessen at that point. I thought maybe it was some of the stresses of moving to a new place. New house, new responsibilities, new everything. It was completely different from where we grew up. Grew up in a little suburbanite place to the woods. So it was quite daunting. When I was about to start 5th grade, new school and everything, I fractured my ankle. So I started a brand new school, brand new town, brand new grade on crutches. That was horrifying because, of course, my new school had a bunch of stairs to it too. So 2 weeks on crutches, I became pro pretty quick. It wasn't that bad though, starting on crutches, and everybody seemed interested in what they were, and when I wasn't looking, kids would take them and run down the hallway with them. So all was well for a little while, and then my parents would start fighting again, and it was getting worse and unmanageable. It was more of a constant thing. The bomb destroying our worlds, that finally kind of happened, end of 6th grade and everything. My parents finally, it just got so bad between them that they wanted a divorce. They thought that was the answer. For us kids, that was just unworldly. We couldn't think of anything worse than parents getting a divorce. But at the same time, every night, just about, my parents would fight, so it was kind of a toss-up. By most people's standards, my parents' divorce was rather ugly at best and horrifying on other days. Us kids, our world was shattered. We didn't know what to believe anymore. Especially me. I was the oldest of the 3, so I kind of got the brunt of it. I always thought it was my fault, and I just, I tried to shield them from it as best as I could. I wish things would have gone better, that they could fix it, but it didn't. I had no idea what was going on or why or anything. They literally was tearing everything apart. No more family get-togethers, nothing. It was all just torn up by the roots. I remember it being so bad that I just wanted to hide all the time. And there was one time in 7th grade, I remember getting off the bus. I was already late for school, and I just kneeled in the hallway crying by my locker. Just because I couldn't figure it out. I couldn't fix anything, and I hated that. I tend to be a little bit of a fixer, even at that age. I had to fix everything. Parents couldn't fix it. It was bad. This was the start of me kind of drifting away from everything. I started closing myself off to everyone. The less I talked, the better I was. People knew what was going on. They'd ask me how I was doing, and shut them off. I couldn't do it. It was just easier to shut everybody out. At that point, I had 2 lives, basically. The one at home, where I had to deal with everything, try and protect my little brother or sister, deal with my parents going at it, and outside was just me being a shell. For the first part of the divorce, we lived with my mom. She had automatically got custody of us. My dad moved out, and we were never happy anymore. She was never happy anymore, and that was very sad to us. And she was always screaming at us. For what? I couldn't tell you to this day. It's just all noise. My mom became very unstable in all of this. We learned later in life that she had like a bit of a mental breakdown, like a legit breakdown. So I don't know what snapped in her, but she wasn't well. Nobody helped, and all the stress and everything just compounded on it. I remember things from the divorce that happened that, neither one of my parents probably even remembered nor would ever admit to these days. Hell, I wouldn't admit to them either. But I remember one time she got real angry at us and was just screaming. Just all out screaming. And she had us 3 kids pinned against the wall. And I was kind of standing over my little brother and sister. They were on the floor behind me, all curled up. They were I was 12, so 10 and 7. They were little. And I remember them just standing behind me, and I kind of like doing this in between them and my mom. I don't remember if she was hitting me or not, but I was taking the brunt of the screaming, or in my head I was, to protect them. That sticks out vividly. She calmed down after a while. I think we all ran and hid somewhere. But that was kind of the home life for us for a while. I was their protector. They always looked up to me, and it just kind of added to the stress because I know they wanted me to fix it, but I couldn't. I didn't know what to do. There was another time that my mom, for some reason, got angry. Either she talked to my dad that day or something just did not go right. I don't know. But she was screaming again, and we had a tree house, so all of us, I grabbed the two of them, and we ran out to the tree house to hide for a little while, let things cool down. Figure if she can't see us, she can't get us. She knew where we were. She didn't come outside. Like I said, it was the woods, so we didn't really have neighbors, so she was screaming all sorts of things. The thing that really got to me, though, was when we were hiding in the treehouse, she started yelling at us to come inside. And we weren't listening. We were just hiding. We were scared. We were safe out there until she started yelling about my puppy. I just got a little tiny puppy, about yay big. My mom started threatening my puppy. She said, if y'all don't come in, I'm going to kill your puppy. And you can't threaten a kid and his puppy. That ain't right. And Tina never did anything, so she yelled at a few times, and finally we all reluctantly went inside to be yelled at for hiding from her, I think. But that was home life for me. Outside of it, I did my best to appear to be normal, but I was far from it. I was torn up inside. I was all discombobulated. And the best way I did it was to close myself off from anyone and everyone. I gave the right answers when I was asked questions. People would ask how I was doing, and I'd say, I'm doing good. They knew what was going on. I would like to believe my face said, yeah, I'm okay, but they probably saw through that. Then once they would ask, they'd usually leave me alone, so I knew how to answer the questions so I could be left alone and just hide within myself. At this point, there was no more church. Well, once my parents divorced, we stopped going. I stopped Sunday school in the 9th grade. I questioned everything. I wasn't an altar boy. Everything just shattered. So why bother going to church? I assumed that I was hiding everything inside and that nobody could see the internal battles that I was battling or the real battles at home that I was gearing up for every night with my parents. The normal stuff of a kid. About this time, also, just to add to it, my uncle, my dad's oldest brother, my Uncle Steve, had started his own battle with brain cancer. I believe it was stage 4. It was real nasty stuff. I remember that. I remember doing a science project on it. Doctors performed, because I think the brain cancer was newer at the time, doctors performed a lot of experimental surgeries on him, a lot of them. They did one where he was awake and they're poking at his brain and they're talking to him. Scary stuff. I couldn't imagine something like that. Nothing seemed to be really working on him. It went away for a little bit and came back with a vengeance. And there was no going away this time. My grandparents, his parents, took this time to tell the grandkids that this was God's way of punishing my Uncle Steve. Now, I wasn't there for this conversation. This is what I was told afterwards. But my grandparents literally told my all grandkids that my Uncle Steve was being punished because he did not believe in God, because he was an atheist. So that was kind of the last straw for me. I was like, you know what, I'm done. I can't understand why God would punish my uncle just because he believed something different. To me, that made no sense and just hurt. I was already believing less and less, and this was kind of the final straw. This just ended everything. I stopped church, Sunday school, everything. I questioned everything about God in my life and his role in it. So basically, the way I summed it up in my head is, if I don't believe in God, I get some sort of cancer. It's always a horrifying thought for a 12-year-old. So I was done. I called it. I could not believe, in a God that would hurt my uncle for, in my mind, no good reason. Whatever relationship me and him had was officially over. It was shattered and it was gone. So for years, that's how my life went after that. For a few years, I was the angry, depressed kid, sometimes hostile, get very sarcastic. If you know me, you know that. Don't mean it. But I was the hostile teen. I was the angry, depressed teen that just kind of was quiet. Nobody trusted the quiet kid, by the way. I was left alone. No one really understood me, and I was fine with that for a while. Like I said, I was the quiet kid, and everybody said hi, and how you doing, but that was the extent of it. Graduated high school, life wasn't much different, and still was angry and depressed at the world for everything that was going on within it. Parents have kind of calmed down. The divorce was over, but it was still it was difficult. By this point, my mom had remarried and had another kid, my youngest sister, Emily. All seemed decent, but my mom and stepdad argued what seemed like the same amount as my mom and dad. So you know how they say history repeats itself. It was looking dire again. And as the years progressed, I still, just stayed angry at everything. As I got older, it appeared I was taking on a new role in my mom's side of the family, between her and my stepdad, and that was counselor. Whenever they would fight, my mom would run upstairs, lock herself in the room, because that's the mature thing to do. I know this, right? She would lock herself in a room and talk to no one. The only one that could talk to her was me. So if I was out working or something, I'd come home and my stepdad would come up to me and be like, "Hey Jeff, me and your mom fought again. She's upstairs, can you talk to her?" So I'd go up, I'd knock on the door, I'd calm her down, I'd smooth everything over, and she'd come out and we were all happy again. This went on for years. I now know this was not good, and I was just being some sort of an enabler to her. But this was the pattern of my family. Then one day, I met someone named Kayla, and everything changed again. Fell, head over heels type thing. New couple. Even though we were still a new couple, we decided to move to North Carolina together. Real quick tidbit, I forgot this. I'm from Massachusetts, so long journey. And North Carolina, we both agreed on it. Me more so because ever since I graduated, North Carolina called to me. Can't explain it. It was just kind of always in the background, be like, "Hey, visit North Carolina." Always called to me. And finally, I was just always too scared to do that by myself. That's a big trip. So me and Kayla packed everything we had together, moved on down here in October of 2012, and never looked back. It was a new adventure for me, getting away from everything that I once knew. Hopefully my mom would become a little bit better without me. We lived together, me and Kayla lived together for several years and made it work. Sure, we had our ups and downs, but we got through them. We were happy, or at least I thought we were. Then in January of 2016, my world did another big old loop. We were pregnant. What joy, what happiness, what stress, and what worry that brought. We were ready, but we were ready. I was excited. I was going to be a dad. I was going to do things differently. That's what you never want to be the same as your parents. So that's what I was telling myself. I'm not going to be like my dad. This is my chance. Then on September 19th, 2016, this world welcomed my son, Charlie. Again, oh, what joy, what happiness he brought with him, and what stress and what worry he also brought. When he was 5 days old, he had what they called a brew. I don't know if anybody's familiar with that. He stopped breathing for literally half a second. It was enough to make him completely and utterly unresponsive. So we rushed him to the hospital, and by the time he got there, I beat them there. I won't tell you what kind of speeds I was doing. But he was becoming more responsive. They kept him overnight, and he was fine. Weirdest thing ever. Nurse the next day was telling us, this is a normal thing, that a lot of kids go through it. And I was like, this ain't normal. The kid died or something. He's brand new. I needed to see the warranty. But he survived it, and he was fine. So we were all very happy for that. He was just very worrisome. For his first 2 years, I thought we had this. I thought we were going to be the happy little family with the house, the picket fence, the American dream. Turns out we weren't. Fighting between me and Kayla continued to increase, and it only worsened because I was working 2 jobs. It was my nightmare, me becoming my dad, was coming true because we were fighting, so we were like my parents. And that scared me. About the time I felt comfortable leaving my second job because I was doing well enough with my first job, she told me that it was too late, that I was working too much, and that we were done. I didn't understand this because it's what she wanted. She wanted me to quit my second job to spend more time with Charlie and her. So I was literally comfortable enough to do that. I felt like I was making enough and that I could be the one job dad and have more time with my family. She still said it was too late and that we were done. I fell apart. What else could I do? Everything breaking around me again. Tried to fix it. I'm not a very good fixer, apparently. But it was my parents' divorce all over again. The only difference is we weren't married. I failed again in keeping my family together. I started a downward spiral, making it worse than, the only thing making it worse was that I learned she actually cheated on me. When I found out that he would actually come over to our apartment right after I would leave in the morning to go to work. So I'd leave, he'd see me leave, and he'd come on down and say hi to her. That created a whole new level of anger and depression that I wasn't even aware I was capable of. The only thing that kept me barely afloat and functional during these times was Charlie. Seeing that horrible little monkey kid, he brought joy to me. He calmed me down. Like I said, I reached anger levels and depression I didn't know I was capable of. It hurt feeling the way I did. It was exhausting. I don't know if anybody's ever been that angry, but it takes a whole lot out of you. I didn't like it. My lowest point, I remember sitting on the couch one night, crying, thinking maybe she was right. Maybe I am a horrible person, Father. We had a bad argument that day, and I remember her telling me all of that. Sitting there spiraling by myself, thinking thinking all of this. Charlie was with her, so I had literally nothing. I was just sitting in my apartment. I had a pistol in my lap, in my hand, and it was ready to be used. It was ready to take me out of this horrible life. My ex-mother-in-law, who I was talking to at the time, talked me down that night. I don't even know if she knows that I had that pistol in my hand and how close I really was. But she talked me down, and I calmed down that night. After that night, I realized how low I was going, and I had to fix it. I reached out to my buddy Ray, who was always there. I just didn't notice sometimes. He's a big presence, though. You know him. He told me to come to church. Now, it's been years. It's probably been 16, 17 years since I've even stepped foot in a church at this point. I was very reluctant, but I went because Ray forced me to. Again, if you know Ray, he's very persuasive. And you know what happened when I went to church? I sat in the back corner over there and I cried. Then I went back the following week. You know what? I did it again. I cried. This was my next few months. I'd go to church. I'd sit in the back and I'd cry. Just random moments. Be doing good all service, and song hit me. I was done. I'd cry. And after every week, I also felt a tiny bit better. So I kept going. Then this little church I have started to go to, with all the crazy people that were excited to see me, that I started to attend regularly, started a new program called Celebrate Recovery. Again, Ray told me to come to this program. I've been to Celebrate Recovery before when he was at another church, just once or twice. Liked it from the start. To me, it was real church, is the best way I can describe it. So I did. And you know what? I cried there too. You're going to see a pattern here. Not because I wanted to, but because I felt safe at this church, at this program. One night after CR, I was in Ray's office, just ugly crying. It was horrible. Blubbering baby. I didn't know what to do. I was overwhelmed. I was scared. I was scared for Charlie. I was everything. I was besides myself. I was thinking I was a failure. Ray, being Ray, sat there taking everything in and just basically examining me like I was some crazy nutbag. Everything I was saying, and stuck his hand out. Told me to take it, and I did. There I said my first pronouncement of faith. Is that what we call it? Yeah, I forgot. I'm sorry. But by the end of it, I wasn't crying anymore. In fact, I was calm. The calmest I've been in a very, very long time. I can't explain it, but it did. It literally, once we finished it, it was just a wave. It was amazing. It was a level of calm that washed over me that night, unlike anything I had ever felt before. It was comforting. I left feeling different for the first time in a very long time. Something felt different. The following week, I was baptized at CR, right here. It was awesome. It's the first time I was baptized, other than being drowned as a baby. I felt even more different after that. I felt happy again. The weight on my shoulders was less. I started handing more things over to God once I realized that He's in my corner. Granted, I still was going through all this, but I didn't feel alone anymore. And I think that was the biggest thing for me. I always felt alone, and now I didn't. There was a different light that was cast on everything, and I felt better. Once I was able to continue going to church and everything, I started giving more over to God. And that I would admit that I was powerless and just ask for his help. It was amazing. It wasn't easy, but it was amazing. He helped me. He was right there. Even after all of these years, denying him, being angry at him for whatever reason I could come up with, cereals out, I don't know. But he still helped me get up, and he always will. He'll continue as long as I ask. Since that night in Ray's office, it has been different for me. It's been easier. It's still been difficult, but it's been easier. I am growing in my faith, becoming a better person, I hope, and a better father to Charlie. He loves it here at the church too. So, God is helping me raise Charlie in the faith, which I'm ecstatic about because that kid absorbs everything like a sponge. Even after calming down, God has shown me to my lovely wife over there. She's helped me. She's been tremendous. She holds my feet to the fire, and she keeps me calm. She's really been a rock for me. By no means has it been an easy walk in the park since I have accepted Jesus. But that I can say it's nice having him in my corner when trouble comes around. In my short walk with Jesus, I am proud to see my growth, and I'm excited to keep watching where God has taken me. I'm also excited to see where he takes Charlie in this life. That is my testimony. Here I stand before you, beautifully broken, and with his grace being put back together daily. Thank you.